it's something I'm super passionate about because I
Hmm.
think it impacts the way that you ride and how much you enjoy being on a bike.
What are we talking about today? Because we've not actually said it yet.
We're talking about bike fit.
Whoop, whoop.
Welcome to All Bodies on Bikes, the podcast, where all bodies are good bodies, all bikes are good bikes, and all rides are celebrated.
All Bodies on Bikes is a movement to create and foster a radically inclusive bike community. So join your hosts, I'm Ellen,
And I'm Marley.
as we explore the complexities of the biking world. Help us break down barriers and create the world that we want to see.
And don't forget that all bodies really means all bodies, not just larger bodies, but bodies of all sizes,
Ages,
races,
abilities,
genders,
sexualities.
and beyond. Come along for the ride.
Hi, Marley.
Hi, Ellen.
We're definitely recording this on a different day from the previous episode.
Can't you tell?
I can. You have a hat on now.
I do have a hat on.
Are you repping anybody we should know about?
All bodies on
that's-
bikes, obviously.
Oh my gosh, I haven't seen that one.
We have like 3 of them left, but you can get them on our website at the
God.
merch store.
Act fast.
Oh, also, we have black cycling kits that have like a very small All Bodies on Bikes logo up to a size 6X. Did you know that?
Let's see, I did not know that.
Yeah.
And that sounds very classy.
It is. And comfortable, and it supports a woman-owned business, and All Bodies on Bikes gets a cut of the proceeds.
You
So
listed like 5 wins
I
in
know.
one sentence.
Well, duh.
Ugh.
That's how we do it around here.
As if Marley speaks in any other type of sentence. Winning,
We are
winning.
always winning. No, but seriously, finding kits for bigger bodies, that is not the topic of the show. We've done plenty of shows on it.
Yep.
Can be really hard. And we have partnered with Champion System, who makes up to a 6X. And the coolest thing is they, like, for the All Bodies on Bikes kit, they have like mechanics jerseys, they have mountain bike style tops. It's not just like your classic like suck it up into the lycra, but we do have that too if you want to
Nice.
look like a traditional cyclist.
Well, that's very exciting. We'll put
Yeah.
a link in the description.
We will. And we also have like our colorful kits that we're known for, the bright pink and purple with like the fun coral brain pattern. But
Yeah.
we heard from folks that people like black, which
They're allowed.
they're allowed to. We made it. I'll probably buy one because sometimes you just want to look a little stealthy and not stand out.
Or sometimes I also like pairing the black with a fun top, or like if the black shorts or
Yes,
like a
that's
colorful
true.
top, like you can really let the other thing shine.
Oh, Ellen, you're
So,
always a voice of reason.
thanks.
So
It's
we
my
keep you
Gemini.
around.
I'm gonna say it's my Gemini-ness, but that applies to you too. So
Yeah,
never
and
mind.
I'm never the voice of reason.
Middle childness?
Maybe.
My middle childness.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put myself in every box, and
I
then
love
you
it.
guys can tell me why I can see both sides. But we have an important topic today, which I am
I'm
also excited about.
I'm excited about it, and I mean, it's something I'm super passionate about because I think it impacts the way that you ride and how much you enjoy being on a bike.
What are we talking about today? Because we've not actually said it yet.
We're talking about bike fit.
Whoop, whoop. I think it's so important.
Oh, I hear from people all the time that's like, I don't know how you ride that far. If I ride my bike around the block, like I'm in pain and I can't walk for 3 days. And I just
Ooh.
want to start out this episode by saying if you are in pain on your bicycle, something is wrong. Like it's not supposed to feel like you're sitting on a couch, but you should not be in lingering pain. And hopefully by the end of the episode today, you will have some tools and some tricks and some knowledge for how to fix that pain that you are potentially experiencing.
I'm
Yeah.
excited to hear more. When was the last time you had a bike fit?
I had a bike fit in May when I went to Detroit for Clever Fox Cyclery. We like showed my film, and then we did a community event, and they have a bike fitter on staff, and he looked at my bike and he was like, "Have you ever had a bike fit?" And I was like, "No, I mean I have. I've had many bike fits, but not on this bike." I was like, "How can you tell?" And he was like, "Do your hands go numb?" And I was like, "Yeah, my hands go numb after like 5 miles." He's like, "Well, your setup is contributing to that." And so he
Oh
was
my
able
gosh.
to, just by looking at my bike, like point
Mhm.
out or pinpoint things that were potentially causing me problems. And that's what a good bike fitter can do. They can just look at your setup. And I mean, once he made those changes, like all of my like hand tingling and numbness and shoulder pain went away.
That's wild. That's
Yeah.
like when you go to the bra store and they look at you and they're just like, "You're doing it wrong."
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah,
I will
exactly.
say The only reason I know I need to go get a bike fit is because my seat is absolutely in the wrong place right now. But
How can
similar to
you tell
you,
that it's in the wrong place?
I can tell because my knee does not extend all the way. It stops way short.
Yeah.
But it's an e-bike, so I can get away with it a lot longer because I'm doing a lot less work. So,
Yeah, but seat height is also a super easy thing to fix, and you don't
oh
have to
my
go
god.
through a full fitting, so
Do you know what? If I were not the kind of person who was running out the door 5 minutes late every time, it would have been fixed months ago.
well,
But
maybe
we
after this podcast, you will be inspired to adjust your seat height.
wouldn't that be great? That's you know what? I will commit to recording myself adjusting my seat height and putting
Okay,
it up on the internet.
I like this plan.
Okay, write it down,
Accountability.
send me a note, but I will do it. So let's talk a little bit though about what is a bike fit. Let's start with who is it for? I feel like we've referenced this in what we've just said, but we're going to explicitly say everybody needs a bike fit.
Yes.
Everybody, if you are riding a bike, should have a bike fit.
Yeah, yeah, and I think there's a misconception that it's just for racers or it's just for people who are spending a lot of time on their bikes. Um, and yeah, bike fits can benefit everybody. I will say they often cost a pretty penny. And
What are we
so,
talking?
couple hundred.
Okay.
But as we'll talk about later, we have some budget options for you.
Okay.
And if you are not in pain, if everything feels pretty good on your bike right now, you might not need a full bike fit. It's just kind of ensuring that a couple different contact points on your bike feel good. So we say everybody should have a bike fit, everybody needs a bike fit. Kind of a big asterisk on that. Like,
Okay.
yes, but there's a lot of other ways to spend your money. So if you don't get a bike fit, it is not going to be the end of the world. But
Okay.
if you're experiencing pain or have a big ride planned, 50
Mhm.
miles, 100 miles, it can be a really good idea to get a bike fit.
True. Sometimes you don't know that something's wrong until you're on those longer distances too.
100%. Yeah, for me, it typically doesn't show up until past mile 10, mile 15, when your body
Yep.
really relaxes into that riding position. And that's when the
Mm.
aches and pains and tingles start to show up.
Okay. What do we need to consider as well through the lens of all bodies on bikes? Hoping to explain this to people who are riding in bigger bodies as well.
Yeah, just because you're in a bigger body does not mean you don't deserve a fit.
Yep.
Everybody deserves one. And it should be fit for the kind of riding you want to do. So if you just want to be comfortable on your bicycle and you're commuting or you're going around town, make sure the bike fitter knows that. I had a bike fit one time a couple years ago where they put me in a much more aggressive position than I ever ride in and was ever comfortable
Mm.
riding in. And so making sure that you are honest with the bike fitter about how you ride, how you intend to ride, so that way they're not setting up the bike in a way that is not going to work for you.
And I will say, don't do the thing where you think you need to be cool. Do the thing where you're authentic to yourself. Like every type of writing is good writing. So
Exactly.
if what you want to do is commute, tell them that. If what you want to do is toodle doodle, tell them that because that's going to
Exactly.
make a big difference in how they adjust you. And
Yeah.
all rides are celebrated.
Exactly. Yeah. And like for me personally, I'm planning on riding the Great Divide mountain bike trail next year, which goes from Canada to Mexico. I will need a different bike fit for that than I
Yep.
do on my cargo bike because I am riding in two very different ways on those bike rides.
Oh yeah. Faux show.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
Thanks.
I did know that, but I had forgotten. So
Well, I kind of went back and forth on it because it's
okay.
a really big commitment,
You're
but
doing the whole thing?
I don't know yet. I don't think I'll do the whole thing. I would
Okay.
love to do the whole thing. I think I should set my goal to do the whole thing, but that would
Okay,
probably take
cool.
like 2 or 3 months, and I got a nonprofit to run, so we'll see what my board says about that.
Fair enough. With that, I'm gonna put our little ad right here for how everybody should be a member. Ba-dum, boop. Okay, we're back. What should be happening while you are getting a bike fit?
Yeah, so you need to be prepared to ride your bike for like 20, 30 minutes, maybe an hour. So your bike fitter should tell you this, but show up in your kit. You want to be wearing what you would wear on a bike ride. So that way your chamois feels comfortable. They can get your saddle adjusted, your shoes that you normally wear on the bike. So come prepared to ride. Bring a snack if you need to, bring your water bottle, that sort of thing. Your fitter is going to set you up. So there's a bunch of different ways to do the bike fit. And what I mean by that is like different tools. So there's like a a specific machine that kind of looks like a bicycle that some fitters use and will then transfer those measurements over to your bike. Some fitters will put your bike onto a trainer type bike stand
Mhm.
and have you directly adjust from there. So there's a couple different ways that it can actually look, but long story short, you are going to be riding your bike. So you're going to get on and they're going to tell you just to ride. And the fitter is basically just going to watch how you ride, and they're looking for things like, what does your pedal stroke look like? Are there inconsistencies from like your right side to your left? Are your hips rocking? Are your knees coming in and out? How does your back look? How do your shoulders look? How do your arms look? The fitter is really looking head to toe for all of these different things. And I am not a bike fitter. I don't know exactly what they're looking for, but there's a number of different things. And essentially, the end goal of the bike fit is to make you as efficient and comfortable on the bike as possible. So a couple things that they're going to ask you is like, where do you feel any pain or discomfort? Some of the most common places is saddle pain, handlebars, your handlebars being too long and having pain in your shoulders or pain in your
Mm.
hands because you're dumping
Mhm.
all your weight into your hands. If you're a bigger rider, weight distribution, sometimes that can be a challenge. Basically, they're looking at the contact points on your bike. So your butt, your feet, and your hands, and they're going to focus on those points of comfort and then
Mhm.
dial it in from there.
It's reminding me of when I do physical therapy and, like, the physical therapist can just look at you and be like, "This is what you need to adjust about the way you walk." I like that you use the word efficient because that is part of it too. What I learned when I was first writing is, like, the way you know how to pedal, the way that your body is moving can be more or less efficient based on how this is all working together. So, you
Exactly.
will if you're doing this right, you're going to be expending less energy, literal energy in
E-
your ride.
exactly. Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah.
What are the big elements? Tell me more.
I'd say the biggest thing, especially the thing that we hear the most like complaints about, is saddle and saddle positioning
Mm,
and saddle comfort. And so for folks in bigger bodies, and we talk about this in our biking for bigger people class, is that wider saddles is not necessarily the best choice. Just because you've got a quote unquote big butt, or you call yourself fat or whatever it might be, that doesn't mean you need like the cushiest, widest saddle that you can find at the shop. If that's what you choose to ride, that's fine. I would only recommend those wide saddles for a very upright cruiser style bicycle. If you are going for distance of any kind, those wider saddles are actually going to inhibit the full rotation of your leg.
yeah.
So, what actually matters there is it's called your sit bones.
Uh-huh.
And
Sit
it's
bone
technically,
connected to the sit bone.
yeah, I'm gonna Google this real fast because it's like
I might know this one actually, because this was something that surprised me with when I did a bike fit. It's not related to the size of your butt. It's
exactly,
where your bones meet the seat.
exactly.
And
And so
so
the bones we're
yeah,
talking about, they're colloquially called the sit bones, but what I
okay.
was Googling is their actual name, and it's the ischio tuberosities, and it's
God
the
bless you.
bony prominences at the bottom of your pelvis. So if
It's
you
the
ever
part
look at a
that you
skeleton and
yeah, if
it's
you let
literally the part that you sit on. So, if you're like sitting on a hard floor and you feel the
yes,
bony part of your butt, that's what you want to be on the bike seat because
yes.
that is what is going to support your skeleton and the rest of your weight. And so, if you think about those wide saddles, all of the weight and the pressure is on your soft tissues. It's on your muscle, it's on your skin, it's on your fat, versus some of those narrower saddles that you can really get. You can see me wiggling. You can get your bony butt parts onto, and we all have bones in our butt regardless of how big you are and
Mhm.
how much it feels like there might not be bones in there are bones in there, I promise you.
Right.
And so getting those sit bones measured, and I
Yeah.
remember the first time somebody told me about like get your sit bones measured, I was like, oh hell no, I'm not walking to a bike shop, nobody is putting a tape measure up to my butt, we are no, 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 no.
Not how it happens.
Not how it happens, even though like common misconception, including me. No, there's actually a couple different tools for it. Typically, there's like a gel pad that
Mhm.
you sit on, and basically they measure the distance between those
Yep.
two imprints. There's also digital sit bone measuring techniques. You can do it on a piece of cardboard, but that is
Hmm.
how you measure your sit bones, and then you'll want to get a saddle based on that width.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna add here is that part of your bike fit might be getting new stuff. So you might need to get a seat that is wider that measures to match your hip bones, or you might be getting new handlebars. I think we'll get into that next. because the where your hands hit and like how crunched your shoulders are also makes a difference.
Exactly, exactly. And then like what kind of riding you're doing. You'll want a wider handlebar position for mountain biking versus a narrow one for road biking. Anyway, I'm not ready to go to handlebars yet. I'm still back on
Okay.
sit bones. Other things that they might adjust at your bike fit once they get you on the right saddle is like the tilt of it. Sometimes it's
Mm.
tilted up, sometimes it's tilted down. Everybody's body is a little bit different. So those are things that they might play with. And then there's a million different saddle types. There's cutouts. There's
Mhm.
been lots of articles on this, and I encourage you, if you're having challenges with a saddle, look up some of those things, and maybe we can put some links into the show notes. But it comes down to your individual body anatomy. Are you an innie? Are you an outie? Do you have a lot of tissue there? Do you not? What's your genitals, genitals?
Pintail. Woo!
My brain just went some places. Oh God. Anyway, okay. So now that we've talked about your butt and your saddle, the next thing to think about is handlebars and reach. So you're sitting on your bike and you're reaching forward. You want to make sure you're not too stretched out, not too crunched up. And this is a little bit of a personal preference, but the fitter will be able to dial this in for you. There's a couple different ways they make this change. They can move your seat closer to your handlebars. You can change the stem, you can change the angle, you can change all sorts of stuff. Sometimes wider bars can help open up your lungs for breathing. If that's something you're struggling with, or if you've got a broad chest, having wider handlebars can help with that positioning.
Mhm.
Again, just something to talk about with your bike fitter, but that is something that they will mess with. And again, something you are not married to. Your handlebars can change, your stem can change. You can even change the type of handlebars. So if your bike
Mhm.
has the drop bars, which is like the bars with the curly cue, the traditional bike that you're thinking of, there's ways to change that to a flat bar. There's ways to
Yep.
go from a flat bar to a drop bar. And that's not on every bike. There's some compatibility things, but yeah,
Yeah.
the whole point is like you're not married to what comes on your bike.
Right.
Next thing to talk about is like crank length and where your
Wink, wink.
feet are at on the pedals.
Oh,
Crank length, is that like
I don't know. Sounded like it needed a wink.
okay, yeah. So, yeah,
Crank
crank
length.
length. This
What
gets
does that even what okay, because the next thing you have in our notes is what's a shorter crank, longer crank. What am I supposed to be thinking here? What is a
yeah, this gets really nerdy and really technical, and we're like getting to the limits of my knowledge here. But
yeah,
essentially, it comes down to your pedaling efficiency.
okay.
So typical crank length is going to be like 165 to 175 millimeters.
What is that measuring? Is that my leg? Is that my
It's the thing that your pedals are attached to that is then connected to your bike. So it's
okay,
usually
so
a
we'd have,
metal.
like, the circle that the pedal is attached to, and then the length that get from the circle down to the actual pedal itself.
Exactly. That's going to be your
Okay.
crank length. Yep. And so oftentimes, depending on the size of your bike, the bigger your bike, the longer your crank length is going to be, which works well for most folks. But as you get kind of to the the bigger and the smaller ends of the spectrum, some folks find that shorter cranks work better, longer cranks work better. This is something your fitter will be able to help you with. But I think we're just including it because it's something to be aware of as far as making yourself more comfortable. I think
Perfect.
the bigger thing for folks in bigger bodies to think about is this silly little thing called Q factor. And essentially, what that is that is the width of your pedals. So
Hmm.
when your pedals screw into your crank, there is typically like one link there, and then your feet are kind of stuck to those pedals in that rotation. Um,
Yeah,
but but if you're
you're
a bigger bodied person, oh sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna yeah, I think I remember one of the things they adjusted in my bike fit is because I did clipless, which is ironically when you do clip in.
Right.
So your foot cannot move, but they did a lot of adjusting because that can really mess with your knees. It can turn this way, you can do it like ups and downs, and I think so what you're saying is just truly this position of your foot on either the pedal or getting a pedal that would move it out even further if needed.
Yeah, it's not even the pedal. Like it is the pedal, but it's the spindle that's attached
Okay.
from your pedal to the crank. And essentially you can
Okay.
increase the Q factor, which aligns your feet wider to be more in
Yes.
alignment with your hips, which can
Okay.
work especially well for bigger bodied folks. If you find yourself sitting really bow legged on your bike to pedal efficiently, that's a good indicator that you should increase your Q factor. So that way your knees aren't bowing outwards and you can ride more efficiently.
Love
Um,
it.
yeah.
I did not know that one.
Yeah, pretty simple thing, but makes a really big difference for folks.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the final thing that isn't necessarily a bike fit thing, it's more of a comfort thing, is just tire pressure and tires.
What is that?
Um,
What's that do?
so it increases how comfortable you're going to be.
Well,
So
thank you. I
I
wasn't
know, I
sure.
know. Oh, sorry, that wasn't helpful at all. But essentially, depending on the kind of bike you're riding, the kind of tires, the terrain, you're going to want to vary your tire pressure. So, like for mountain biking, for example, you're going to want a lower tire pressure so that way it can absorb those bumps and the rocks and that sort of thing.
Okay.
Um, Same thing for road biking. You're going to want a higher tire pressure so that way you can roll more efficiently. Um, and maybe
Okay.
this is something we should cover somewhere else about just tire pressure in general for bigger bodies. But I tend to ride a higher tire pressure than a lot of other folk because I like knowing that I'm not going to flat.
So if you have a lower tire pressure, you are more likely to get a flat?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good thing to know because
Yeah.
not that I don't know how to fix a flat, but I don't want to do it.
Exactly. I don't either. I know how to fix a flat and I don't want to do
Right.
it. Yeah.
Okay, that is good to know.
Yeah.
And that's, I guess, how it goes hand in hand a bit, though, with suspension, too. More suspension is a smoother ride for the rider.
Exactly. But it
And
needs to be
so,
adjusted for your weight. Yeah.
yes, right. You don't want a bouncy house castle type like version of bike. This is a terrible comparison, but you don't want to be a bouncing down the trail, but you also don't want it to just be like everything
Exactly.
rocking up your spine.
Yeah.
And those
Those are
are two technical terms, by the way. Bouncy and
yeah. And maybe if
yeah,
we do an episode specific to mountain bikes later, we can talk about suspension and dialing it
that
in
would be
for bigger
good.
bodies, but it's like kind of niche, kind of not esoteric, but it's like you can get into the weeds a little bit.
Sure. And
Yeah.
we are trying to stay up here, not in
Yes.
the weeds.
General.
Um,
Before we move
cool.
on, I will ask a question that um do you know how much air to put in your tires?
I do.
How do you know that?
I and anyone can look on the side of your tires. On the outside of any tire, it's listed how much PSI or what the PSI should be. And it's usually a range so that you can decide, do you want to ride a little low? Do you want to ride a little high? Low would be probably where you ride is what it's no, opposite.
No,
Low would
opposite.
be if you want the squishier ride, is it the safe spot to keep your pressure? And then higher gives you basically a more pressurized, aka harder tire wheel
Tire.
tube. Because like you're filling up the tube, not the tire.
Well, it depends if you're running tubeless tires or not.
Oh, nuts.
Yeah, but essentially, you have it
Yes.
exactly right. So, but that's a
So
common question
smart.
for folks. When I teach classes, I'm like, "How often do you air up your tires?" And people are like, whenever." I'm like, "No, before every ride, and you should know exactly what you're airing it up to." So
I definitely forget to check before every ride. This
it's
fits
okay.
into the whole reason my seat's not in the wrong spot. It's like I cannot check my tires because I am already late. But I should. ABC check every time if you can.
Exactly. Air brakes chain.
That's
So
right.
yeah,
Okay, so the four main things were saddle, handlebars,
handlebars and reach
crank length,
and pedals. Yep, and Q factor.
and suspension and tire pressure.
Exactly. Yeah.
So those were the kind of four main things that you have to wiggle with, to play with, and a professional will obviously know what to look for. It's also in my brain kind of this puzzle of like you moved one thing and oh you had it set right, but then you moved this other thing, and so you have to maybe go back and like try again. So it does get real fiddly, and I think
Yes.
maybe keep that in mind if you are a person who does not love fiddling and doesn't love patience. I were to go into a bike fit with my mentality of just get me in, get me out, I will be real frustrated.
Yeah.
So go in knowing that this is a
It's a
journey,
process.
this is a process. And the other thing that I will say is that it might just kind of once you're done, it might feel weird.
Yeah.
If
It'll,
something got
it'll take
really
some getting used
adjusted,
to.
yeah, it might feel weird at first. And so to give it some time, let your body kind of reteach its muscle memory of when you're getting on the bike. So don't assume that they did it wrong because you go home, you sleep, and then the next morning you wake up and you're like, this doesn't feel right at all. Like you're correct. It doesn't feel right to your brain, but it
Exactly.
is going to be good for your body.
Yeah. Yep, exactly.
So,
The other thing I would say, especially if you're messing with some of this stuff at home, which is perfectly fine to do,
yep.
you do want to make some adjustments on your own before going to a bike fitter. That's brilliant, actually. So that way you can have an idea of what you tried and what you haven't. I recommend fixing one or changing one thing at a time. So change
Yeah.
your saddle, go for a ride. Change your handlebars, go for a ride. And it doesn't need to be a long ride because you'll know pretty quickly if it's close or if
Mhm.
it's super wrong. Iteration, but one thing at a time.
Yeah, and I would say write down what you've done.
Oh, that's a good
'Cause or,
idea.
like, write down your starting measurement, spot, whatever, or mark it, like, wax pencil is always sometimes just a regular pencil is helpful on, like it depends on what kind of material you have, or, like, a dry erase marker if you're
Yep.
into that.
Nail polish.
Um, nail polish is good, so that if you adjust it and you're like, "Oh, nope," you can put it back in the right spot and you're back to neutral. And then I would suggest too, when you do make a change, take a note of it so that if you do feel like, oh no, oh no, I've gone too far and now I want professional help again, you can go in. I feel like I have to do this with my hairdresser a lot whenever I cut my own hair. I just it's like I have to go in and confess my my hair cutting sins. Just be like, um, but it's like, but at least then I can tell him it's like, hey, well, when we last met, you thought it would be looking like this when I came back, and it's not what it is.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that too helps them understand what was the waterfall effect of those changes. So
Exactly. Exactly.
I mean, and if you are not a person who's ever going to do any of those things, then God bless, and still feel free to adjust your own bike. It is your bike, and I hope that you feel comfortable with it.
Yeah. Yeah, good point. So we talked about professional bike fitting, but there are some resources to do it yourself or do it like on a budget. There's
Okay.
this incredible website. It's called MyVeloFit. We'll put a link to it in the show notes. And essentially, it's like an AI assisted bike fit where you take video of
Okay.
yourself and it like does all these things. And I've tested it and it works really well. And it's gotten really good reviews from like Velo and Cycling Weekly and Bicycling Magazine. But yeah, it's called MyVeloFit, and it's an at-home bike fit, and it can be a really good starting point, especially if you're low on budget. One other thing to note is bike fits are often covered by health insurance. Um, if
Really?
Yeah, especially if you have an HSA or is it FSA a thing?
Uh-huh.
If you have
Um,
either of those,
yeah.
it can often be targeted under that.
Okay.
Or physical therapists can prescribe a bike fit, and then your insurance will often cover it.
Oh, these are really good things to know.
I think the biggest thing is that like bike fits can feel really intimidating for bigger riders, especially if you're fairly new to cycling. Maybe you're getting ready for your first big season or your first big gravel event. It can feel a little silly to be like, "Oh, I don't even ride that much. I don't deserve a bike fit." No,
Mhm.
get that out of your head. If you
Yep.
ride a bike, you are deserving of being comfortable and confident on your bike. And so, talking to your bike fitter, making sure you feel comfortable with them, making sure they understand the kind of bike riding that you do is going to help a ton. And then just going into it with patience and humor can be really helpful.
I love that. I think we mentioned this in the previous episode, but bears repeating. Be honest when you are in the bike fit and be persistent. I
Yeah.
think one of the things I will struggle with is if it's not right after the third time, I am highly likely to say, "Nope, that's okay. We don't need to do it again."
Yeah.
And this is a different bucket from the not liking fussing. If we're doing armchair expert for Ellen today, this is the bucket of I don't want to take up space. I don't want to take up more of your time.
But you're paying for it. So take up
I'm
that time, take up that space.
exactly. So
Yeah.
you can do it.
Yeah.
Everyone deserves it.
I think that's all for bike fits. I hope this was helpful for folks. I know it's one of those topics that's like you hear people talking about it like, oh, I got a bike fit, or oh, you should get a bike fit. But it can be like, what does that even mean? So hopefully we broke it down in an approachable way.
I love that. I
Yeah,
think we did.
I
Tell
think
us
so
if we
too.
didn't. Because
Yeah,
one of the things about being an All Bodies on Bikes member is you get access to us via the Discord. So you can just send us a little message and be like, you didn't say this. And I will say, okay.
exactly. You can also leave us those comments directly in Spotify, and we will see them there, or on YouTube, or wherever else you are tuning in. We're so grateful to you, our listeners, for keeping this podcast going, and happy bike fitting season.
Happy bike fitting season. Bah, 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 bah.
Brr, brr, brr.